Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Get early access to all of our interviews, including the monthly Chichester chats with writer and comic book legend D.G. Chichester, new episodes of classic Capes and Lunatics shows, including The Quantum Zone, This, That, or the Third, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
Me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I'm your Captain Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome, Mozz. Oh, welcome back to a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, and murder. And only one person can solve it. The human lie detector, Charlie herself. Tonight's episode of Poker Face, Season 1, Episode 3, The Stall. Charlie takes a job at a family-run Texas barbecue joint and must use her skills of perception to sniff out the truth behind a shocking death. Our director this week is Ian B. McDonald. Our writers are Ryan Johnson. Wyatt Kane gets our written by. Ryan Johnson, of course, gets our created by. Executive story editor, the person who just sits around executivizing the story editing. That's Wyatt Kane. But that hardest working person in hardest working person in show business, Mozz, is Charlie Peppers, our story editor.
There's two Charlies?
There's lots of Charlies on this because, of course, Charlie Kale is our heroine, Natasha Leal. Wow! So this is another great episode where, and again, this is this premise. This is the classic how to catch 'em. We set up the situation. We introduce everybody as a suspect. We see the murder before we even see Charlie, and then we go back and show that Charlie was there the whole time and how all these things affected her.
Yeah. I love that the little segue they use to introduce us to the timelines overlapping idea is a guest star appearance by Wishbone.
And Wishbone is the dog?
Tiny little yeah.
Oh, yes, the dog. Who plays a great racist dog. I'm sure that's not a racist. I'm sure the dog is not racist in real life. He's paid to be a racist, just like I was paid to be a Nazi, and, I wasn't paid, but,
You were paid?
Yeah, no, on the kind of films I do, they don't pay you. They tell you that you're going to get paid as soon as they get money, and then they never get money.
Right.
So,
I thought there was more to that dog barking, because he seemed to be barking specifically at that broadcast.
Yeah.
I thought he was that guy's dog, and somehow that's going to have something to do with it, but...
Well, yeah, what it was because he calmed down when the sounds came out. And what a
particular broadcast came on, that guy's voice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we see at the end. I mean, I was actually kind of hoping that dog was going to go on with Charlie, but no, because of course no attachments. That's the thing. By the way, the reveal with the right-wing talk radio host at the end is so much fun, and I do love it. It's brilliant because it just shows what I think is always one of the themes of these shows is it's all a lie.
Everybody's trying to troll you.
Yeah, well, it's all prestidigitation. it's not even mean-spirited. It's just like, look, this is what they want to see, so I'm going to create the story that people want. Yep. I want to sell the barbecue ribs. And, and again, that's the thing about the barbecue ribs and what is arguably the ultimate undoing, which is the idea that one of their big things is they give away the free dental floss because, they're going to get the ribs up in your teeth, but you got to get it out yourself. But of course, within that is just this idea that actually, the guy for whom every sensation is a musical note, suddenly you have this air horn at the end of the symphony. Now, most people don't notice it because they don't experience life that way. But you do get this opening, which is this, and again, it goes into this very interesting opening bit because, of course, obviously, this person has decided that meat is murder.
Yeah, I'm like that was the one part about it that bothered me. It's like this guy spent his whole life honing his perception and honing his craft to get it down to where he can deliver and experience something that he feels and share it with other people. And now because of one movie, he changes his whole, direction around. That was a little, I was like, all right, fine.
Yeah, but you know what? At the end of the day, I get the feeling that that sort of, that obsessive personality, the guy who is the artist, what bothered me about that was less that he was that way, and more that no one said, well, we can still sell the spice, right? Because there's no animals in the spice. And you can put that spice on jackfruit just as good as anything else.
Maybe the funniest thing to me is that he's trying out new things. He's putting carrots on the grill, and he's like, I gotta make this work, man. Yeah.
But you can grill a carrot. You can do all sorts of things. Sure. It's just a different science. I mean, you have to relearn it from the ground up. But there's something that says you can't make good vegan barbecue.
I'd be the one to be like, no, yes, you can. Say you can't.
No, because it's just smoke flavor. Here's the thing. Olive oil has umami. Mm. What you need to do is you need to rebuild it from the ground up. You need to rebuild it, which honestly, this guy would be perfect at because it is about flavor profiles.
Right.
Like, well, what gives me the flavor? What gives me the texture? What builds this thing into something? How do we make vegan hot links? And hot links, honestly, are the thing that you would actually make vegan. Because you can make a vegan casing. You can even make vegan casings that have snap, from what I've heard. I've heard that the science is there, Just need a little more cellophane, Because cellophane is made from cellulose. Yeah. I mean, old school cellophane, that's why it would explode when they would make film stock out of it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just refined cellulose that they spread super thin and sort of make into a gummy, into like a gel. And yeah, but it's highly flammable, but you could make a really snappy sausage with it. Mm. So, that's the thing.
Flammable, I don't know if you'd want to put it on a grill, no?
Well, everything's flammable.
Fair enough.
The issue with cellulose was that they were putting it in thin strips on a projector with heat on it.
Mm.
And the reality is, if you got it on the grill, you got it sprayed, you got it smoked. There's things you can do to maintain the temperature. It's just a new frontier of science.
Mm.
So to me, the argument is they could have actually done it well, talked the brother down, and still made the McCormick deal, because that was the whole thing, is they needed to make the McCormick deal.
Right. And what's even a greater leap is that within 3 days, this insidious woman was willing to throw her whole life. I loved him. And then in 3 days, I wanted to kill him. All right.
You know what? Well, okay. So there are two things here. This is important. What she said was, I loved past tense him.
Right.
Meaning that she loved him.
At some point.
Yeah, at some point in this story, she loved him. She also made a point. She loved what he did. And she also said how it upset her that he decided he's just going to throw everything that they had worked for away. So, I mean,
there seem to be some marital problems to begin with, because when he first meets Charlie, he's like, yeah, I spend my nights out here. I let her have her nights by herself. Must get real lonely. He's like, yeah, no.
Yeah, well, you know what it is? It's just the idea that, not every married couple is clingy. And you can have a very happy, healthy married life where you do both pursue your own individual interests.
Certainly, and that might have been an option, but as we find out,
no, that's not what's happening here. Although, again, what's happening here is probably a lot more of he's really kind of that. Here's the thing. Here's the counter argument from the villain's perspective. That first off, he has this no account brother who is a great hustler, but has gotten the family into financial debt. They have a really solid product that is viable, but now he's going to go vegan. So what she sees is she's got these two brothers at this restaurant that arguably she built, that she's the one doing the work. She's the one cleaning the pants, managing the people, doing the hard work. Everything that she's building here, it's all about it's with both brothers, because arguably she needed both brothers to do it. She needed the brother who could make the barbecue and the brother who could do the hype. But then there's the day-to-day.
Okay.
There's the day-to-day labor that neither one of these people are doing, where she's got to be managing all the people and making sure things are getting done and making sure that there's, playing her part in it as well.
See, the other thing that I thought could be going on is that clearly she's been sleeping with Taffy the whole time for quite a while. And maybe
I'm not sure of that, but I'll allow it.
I mean, I think there's more in favor of it than not, but I think he found out and just didn't want to deal with it anymore. That's why he'd been away, slaving away at his thing, because he doesn't want to deal with it, because he knows what's going on there. He's disappointed in his brother. And he said, you know what? When that movie hit him, all the emotions just collapsed on him. And that emotional moment gave him the doorway to make the decision he'd been wanting to make for a while. I got to get away from these people. Right. And in the moment, that was an easy excuse to latch on to. Okay, this is my reason for extricating myself from this situation.
I mean, that's one take, but I think there's also the take that
just couldn't let him leave.
I think that there's the take that he really was unconcerned with his with that. I mean, that's the thing. That's an interesting take on things. And it's not one we usually get, the idea that, oh no, he just wasn't that into sex. He's an artist. He's a guy who makes food, and the whole day to day of being a married guy. It's what you do, and it's what he liked, and he loved this person he was with. But
is that enough to overlook the gross disrespect?
Well,
on both sides.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying there's ways you can see it that it's not. Here's what I'll say. Definitely, we're made to think of her as a harridan, and his brother as kind of a ne'er-do-well,
an opportunistic
slipper.
Parasite.
Yeah, it's easy to imagine that, but the fact of the matter is I think that that's a simple reading of it.
Right, you're defending two murderers.
Well, of course, because who else will? And not for nothing, that's what you do. And to be fair, at the end of the day, the lady is the mastermind of it. She's the one that figured out, okay, and that's the thing. She's organizational. She is, I run a restaurant. I keep I'm in charge of these things. I know what all the bits are. So how she doesn't know her husband drives a Leaf, I don't know. Because that's one of the things that goes wrong really quickly, was that he goes to put in the from the exhaust pipe of the Leaf. Although I thought a Leaf was a hybrid, not a. Although I guess you can't let a hybrid idle.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Oh, because when the brother goes to kill his other brother, so he drugs him with like Ambien. He falls asleep. Then he locks up the doors and closes up the windows. Then puts the pipe in. and he goes to the car to take the exhaust from the car to put it into the trailer. Mm-hmm. So he gets killed by carbon monoxide. But when he goes there, he realizes it's a Leaf.
A Leaf?
And a Leaf. It's a Nissan Leaf. It's a type of car.
I was like, I don't know I don't remember anything about a Leaf.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's the brand of car. A Nissan Leaf, which I believe is a hybrid. But I would still think it would have an exhaust because it is a hybrid, not a fully electric. At least I think. Unless it was a fully electric Leaf.
I thought the poetic injustice here was that he barbecued him. That he literally smoked him to death. Like, that he took smoke from the barbecue, the smoker, and tucked it in there, and that he literally smoked his brother.
I mean, that's again,
what I thought was happening. I was like, my word, that is cruel. That is woof and unusual.
Although, I mean, what I will say is poetically that he should smoke himself, as he has smoked so much meat. Is that not what a depressed, suicidal vegan would do?
Yeah.
You know, to make good of his sins.
Or maybe this was penance.
Exactly. I think it works out well. I just thought it was interesting that he went to the Leaf and there's no exhaust, and like no one realized that the brother was driving a Leaf. They didn't have a car that had an exhaust pipe. And we get the dog, and the dog is the racist dog who comes and barks, and I found it interesting, just two aspects of that. Both that the bits of the wood...
Fascist!
Yeah. The bits of wood got lodged in the dog's head, which again seemed like a lot of wood to be lodged from just getting a hit. But, you know, it's artistic license. And that there was a tooth missing, which becomes a thing. And the idea that the dog is 25% jackal, which is just such a random idea. I don't know. It's
just like the dog equivalent of, he must have some Neanderthal blood in him, you know?
Yeah.
He was a tough son of a gun, though.
Oh, yeah. Dog got through it. You know, he got that little rainbow bandage on his head. He's a good dog. He's a good dog.
Like he didn't learn nothing.
Still
yapping away.
Yes, but that's of course when we get into the throwback is after the death, and we get to see that basically the dog gets into Charlie's car and won't get out, and so she just decides to drive with him. Dog likes the AM talk radio about building the wall and you know Pelosi and what was his name Soros. Right. You know, and all
I wonder if that dog would have reacted the same to any of the other multitude of voices that guy puts on.
I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, he might just like the voice.
Credit to him, though. That guy puts on an hour-long show about the merits of some crocheting technique. Kudos to you. Oh, yeah. All that is just being funded by his love of acting. That's incredible.
Exactly. Well, you know, he creates a character, and in fact, I think there's even a point where, like, there's a point where the knitting circle lady calls in to someone else. Because I think there's a scene where, like, the knitting circle calls in and says, it's just such a tragedy about your brother.
That's so good. That's so good.
Well, you know, because he's basically doing a 24-hour radio show of just him improving the whole time. You know? And so it is delightful. But, you know, that's the thing. You're an actor and you don't have many options, but here's a radio station that needs content, and they're going to pay you to come in and create just tons of content, and you get paid more if you do all the content yourself. That's why Seth MacFarlane does the voices. He's like, well, I did the voices. I don't have to pay someone else, so it lowers the overall cost of the project. But the knitting circle, and I'm sure the knitting circle is more like a gossip thing, you know, because that's what knitting circles are. So she probably talks about techniques and, you know, how to do a proper hitch and stitch and things like that. But let's talk about who's having problems with their boyfriends today. And then you get like calls in about that, and she's like, oh, well, you know. So it's delightful that she does that and does this, you know, does the jazz hour at night, you know. And he doesn't even like jazz. Which is ironic because when he's doing the racist, he puts on the Miles Davis tape too. So it's interesting, it's ironic, and it's funny.
Subversive, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's also subversive, and of course, this is the whole point: is that I'm just filling airtime,
Yeah.
which is sad but true. Kind of how the entire right-wing talk radio boom occurred. Just need to fill that airtime with something people want to listen to. And sadly, there's a lot of people that want to listen to things that most people would find offensive. And that's, truth be told, that's the real truth of it. It's like most people get their entertainment from like public sources because there's enough TV shows and things like that to entertain most of us. But if you're of a certain kind of person, there's just not an outlet for you. And you feel like, well, I guess I have to listen to right-wing talk radio. I got to listen to Rush Limbaugh. And that's what happens. But, money's money. Moving right along. I do love the fact that when Charlie is talking to someone and they say a lie, she says bullshit.
Yeah. Instinctively.
And it's almost like a Tourette's reaction, where it is so visceral when she hears it. She bullshit, which actually makes me wonder, like, if that was a problem for us again, because someone would bet.
It's almost like somebody sneezes and she's obligated to say "God bless you."
Exactly, and but I like how it plays out in the story. I like how it plays out in the scenes. When she does hit those walls and she tells people about her power, because she tells them, I'm a, kind of a human lie detector. And of course, that's the thing, is she says bullshit when, the victim says, oh yeah, he's fine with the dental floss. And then he explains why he's not. She says it to, blanking on his name, the actor who played the other brother. I'm sorry?
I don't know his name.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think of the character name too. That was Taffy. That's right.
Taffy was the younger.
Taffy was the younger brother, and Larry George was the older brother. So when Taffy says things she calls bullshit, when George says things that she knows a lie, she calls bullshit. She never actually calls bullshit on Mandy.
Right.
Everything Mandy says is true.
And I wonder how long she had been suspecting Mandy. Because there's a ton of times during their conversation where she almost corners Mandy into a confession. Several times in that one conversation, at the end of it, she's like, why did you say that you couldn't find the paprika? She goes, because I wanted him to see it. And I thought she was bearing her soul at that moment. I'm caught. Here's what it is. And then Charlie didn't want to give up the ruse just yet. So she let her off the hook right there, too. So it's like, makes me wonder, how long did she actually know that Mandy was a suspect? And does she choose who she tells that she is a lie detector to strategically?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the whole point of real lie detectors is not to catch you in a lie, but to motivate you with trickery into actually admitting, right? It's a tool for coercion. It's not really a lie detector. So in that way, telling somebody that you're a lie detector, then seeing what you do, right? Especially if you know somebody is a lie detector, it's much harder to lie because now your nerves are extra raw and you can't control it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I definitely think that, like I said, I think Mandy is much more the master criminal, obviously, because of course she's the manager. That's the thing. It's like there's three people in this story. There's a hustler, an artist, and a manager. And as a group, they actually are the perfect mix. Because you got the hype man that gets people in, you've got the artist who creates the product, you got the manager that keeps it all running.
Right.
The problem,
but the manager would also be what is it, a sociopath or a psychopath?
they would be a sociopath.
Okay.
Because they are not deluded by a reality that, a sociopath is a person that simply lacks empathy towards other people.
That's the one. Right.
Yes. A psychopath may lack empathy towards other people, but they usually have an elaborate backstory about, being the son of Sam, as it were. There's some quality that informs their situation that makes it beyond simple sociopathology to psychopathology. And none of these are to be confused with schizophrenia, which is a completely different disorder that can have sociopathic or psychopathic traits to it, but generally speaking, does not. My own theory on schizophrenia is that actually it's a inability to differentiate between when your brain goes into REM sleep and waking sleep, so that you often have dream logic working in your waking life. Which makes me wonder if something like Ambien might actually be a treatment for it. But that's a whole other bag of hammers, and that's an amateur diagnosis.
And maybe that's why for people who take Ambien recreationally, right, they experience hallucination. If they can stay awake and take Ambien, maybe it is a doorway into what it's like to experience schizophrenia. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, definitely. Because, that's the thing. I'm the kind of person that falls into waking sleeps all the time. So I do that's sort of this. So I kind of have an affinity for schizophrenics, because I totally get that mindset when you're in that spot where you can't differentiate reality from that fantasy world. Most days I can, but when you get into that dream state, then it's like, wait, am I here or am I there? Anyway, that's just the fun of mental illness. And, I hope we explore more of it. I think that it's a very underserved topic in most popular culture. But in this case, it is about working it through. I like the fact that the reason she's staying is because someone hit the dog.
Yeah, that was one of the most difficult parts of this episode. I was like, man, I don't need to see this. This poor dog. But luckily he was fine. I was like,
and again, it is an established racist dog, so it's like,
yeah. Well, we don't know that.
I know. Well, we know he's a very, very difficult dog to deal with.
Right.
That's what we can say about that. This is a very strange. Although maybe it's a story that always hits me. With my great grandmother, whose dog had rabies.
Oh.
But she wouldn't put it down.
Oh.
And they kept the dog locked in the shed, and they'd feed it, and all this kind of stuff, because she would not allow them to kill her dog.
How terrible for the dog?
Well, I don't know if the dog actually had rabies. I think the dog had just gone feral. Because it obviously lived longer than a dog with rabies would live. Dogs with rabies usually die relatively quickly.
So then she was just keeping an unruly dog in a cage? That's cruel too.
Well, it was a shed, but and this was like the 1920s, so it was a different. But basically, the idea is, she didn't want to put it down just because it was old and crazy. Because she was and she told this to her kids, like, "Is that what you're going to do to me when I go old and crazy? You're just going to put me down." And instead, they locked her in a shed. So it all worked out for the best.
Would you rather we do that, Mom?
Well, no, that's sort of the thing, is that she did wind up in like an old folks home, and she was very old and crazy and would lean out the window without her top on, screaming at people.
Live your life. Live your life. I love it.
To which my grandmother had to deal with. And it was just, but that's the thing. She went old and crazy. So it's like, we're just going to put her down because she's old and crazy, or we're going to let her live her life. So I always feel like I always have this extra sympathy for people who have mental illness, because I get it, we want to make sure you don't hurt nobody.
Yeah.
But if you're mentally ill and you're an old crazy dog, I get it, Yeah. We all go old and crazy someday, hopefully. Or maybe we just die early. And that's the advantage. You never know. But moving along with this story, of course, Charlie does go through. She finds what the wood is. And of course, because she has that synesthesia, tastes the wood. And she's learning. It's like, oh, well, yeah, wood has different tastes. Because she's never eaten wood before this. But it's like, oh, yeah, that does have a different taste. That does inform what we're doing. That's where I get into this idea that, she does have these heightened senses where she does see that something hits her, and it's like, it's weird because it's like, everything else is like this. And then when someone lies, it's like, and she can just sense it. It just hits her. In the moment, she realizes that obviously whoever attacked the dog had to be by where the pecan wood was. And that's what starts the thing. So it goes through the process. And, she's eventually going through it. And how they catch him is interesting because it was, and this is actually, and for what it's worth, this is an old Columbo gag. They stole this from Columbo, which is that as the thing plays, you don't hear the train in the background. Because the train is supposed to go through it all the time at this time. And when it plays, you don't hear it because, because he didn't think to record it. And it's the sound that's missing that actually gives away the story. So that's great. And then, of course, how they get the wife in there is delightful.
At first, when they cut right away from where she tells Taffy, I have you dead to rights. I have the proof. And then they cut right to Mandy getting the phone call. I thought that they actually said, okay, now you're going to work for us to have some time off. Let's catch the other lady too. We got you, but we need to get her too. And so I thought they flipped him. But turns out it wasn't him at all. It was the radio DJ.
Well, because then as she says, the trick is the stall. The stall, which is actually a fun alchemical process for those interested. The reason why it gets to a certain temperature and doesn't raise is because things can only raise to a temperature to boil off certain substances. So it's like if you make a concoction that has like salt water and sugar water and things like that, it's going to run through these things. It's going to hit at a point where it has to boil off one of these chemicals before it can go to the next level to boil off the rest of the chemicals.
Well, it's also because there's
Four legs good, 2 legs better. 4 legs good, 2 legs better.
Okay, Tristan, relax. They're reading Animal Farm in his school.
So also, because you need to keep that, because you're trying to get all that intramuscular fat and all that ligaments and whatnot to melt off. And if the temperature's too high, it'll burn. But you need it to be at a steady temperature for a long time, so it slowly melts into the meat.
Well, exactly. But the reason for that is actually chemical. It's just a thing about that you can't heat a substance faster than certain other things, that you can't.
I thought it was more really just about the temperature, not letting the fat burn, but rather render.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what it is that's the effect, but the actual cause of it is actual chemical.
Well, obviously it's all chemical, but I don't think it relates to other things before other things. It's just that
No, it actually does. This is why the guy says it, because he's like actually saying it's a thing. When you're heating up a piece of meat.
Yeah, but he's being poetic about it. There's an alchemy
that
happens where
he's being honest about it.
From this gelatinous thing into this liquid thing, and it infuses with the meat. And I think he's talking poetically.
No, but what I'm saying is he's not. He's actually talking. He may think it's poetic, but it's actually science. It's that you can't, because this is what he's saying. It's like when you're heating it, because the fire is actually super, super hot. The fire is like 400, 500 degrees.
About 200, 250. If you're smoking something like a brisket for 8 hours, you're doing it at 2 or 250.
Well, the internal meat temperature gets there. But
they stop that at 160, he said, and then they let it remain.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, but still, it's that idea. It's the heat is more than what it is in the meat, and that's the point.
No, I thought the point was that the heat can't rise above a certain level or else the fat will burn rather than render.
No, what he says is that the point of the stall is that as it's raising,
when it reaches 160, you pull it out, wrap it, put it, and don't let the temperature raise so that it renders the fat.
Well, he doesn't do that. He leaves it in there. He leaves it in there for the stall, because the stall, it has to continue cooking. That's the idea. And
okay, I'm
just telling you, there is chemistry in this involved as well.
There's chemistry, but I don't think it relates to things versus first versus last. Simply,
no. That's just how things boil. When you have a chemical concoction, there actually are. It will hit certain points where it will boil, then boil again, then boil again. And this is why you actually put salt water. You put salt and water to cook things because it actually makes the water boil at a higher temperature.
Right, like pasta.
Exactly. So there are processes involved here. But anyway, but it's about the stall, which is the name of the episode, because she's stalling him so that the other guy can call her, get her confession, and that of course is where she's playing a gamble about how the manager is going to be, and she gambles that when it gets to be this point that they have her dead to rights and we're going to go to jail, says we got to call the cops and make a deal. She says, just don't do anything, and then she calls the cops and makes a deal.
Now, if this would have just happened later in the day, Mandy would have been whip sharp enough to catch it and not incriminate herself. But because she just woke up, they caught her early enough where the fog of just waking up, she wasn't thinking as clear as she would have been, and she just reacted in the moment without any strategic foresight.
I would agree with that. So
very, very.
Anyway, I really enjoyed this episode. I like that the dog stays with the radio host.
I think he was seeking him out the whole episode.
What?
The dog was seeking him out the whole episode.
Yeah.
He's like, take me to that guy. Take me to that voice. Take me to that voice.
I really enjoyed the way they used the media in this. I love the fact that at no point does she wind up on anyone's radar in this episode, so we don't get a Jack McGee moment where the person is chasing her, but she's still wary and she is aware of what's going on. And in general, I really like this episode. I like this episode a lot. I like the story a lot. I like where it's going. Next episode is also really good, which we'll talk about next week. Just rest in metal, dude. And it's very good, but you do get a lot of these ideas in there that, she's just, what are ways you can catch people without actually being a cop? And like, what is the worst fate you can give someone than murdering them or like getting them arrested is you actually, that's what we'll deal with next week. But, in this case, it is getting everybody arrested. And how much of that will stand up in court if someone can get a good lawyer?
Right. She was like tricked. I don't know. How legal is that?
Well, arguably it is a recording over the radio. If she gets a good lawyer.
He did that on the air.
Well, he recorded it and then he played it on the air.
See, now that maybe becomes a different issue legally. Maybe he's not protected. Because if it was done live, it's in the name of entertainment. We prank called you, blah, 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 whatever. That's fine. But if you record, I wonder if Texas is a no consent recording state.
That's a good question. I think that more to the point is that it's something that you could beat in court. And this is always this idea. This is one of these things where I wonder if as this goes on, we're going to get this network of people who are after Charlie. Because they had to fight it. They got away with it, but they had to fight it, And like, who are the people that are like mad enough at her to form the anti-Charlie network? So it's an interesting question, Mozz. Oh, alrighty, Mozzie. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode?
No, I thought it was a really good episode. I thought it was a little less good than the last two. Still great, but I thought it was like a little step back from the last two. The last two were just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, I think this one is a little more subtle. I think it's a little more traditional.
A little more contained.
Yeah, it's more. It's a more Columbo-esque episode, is what I will say, because it is about people in certain positions who have certain rights and privileges amongst themselves, sort of plotting their own little coups amongst themselves. And I think that is different than the previous two, which were more, more, well, I guess the first one is about, the guy trying to manipulate everyone around him. The second one, though, is just, just a stupid guy who tries to commit a murder and fails miserably at it. Kind of like I want to say it was the second episode of Columbo, where there's the whole thing of the guy commits one murder and it's almost flawless, and then he commits the second murder and it's so sloppy. He says, "That's how I knew it was you, because I knew you could never write a good murderer." Anyway, if anyone else has some thoughts on Poker Face, I hope you guys are watching it. I hope you're enjoying it. Why don't you go on over and tell us what you think of Poker Face at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's Capes and Lunatics, all spelled out, at gmail.com. And then give us a call and leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on the air if you like at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Likewise, go down to Linktree, linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. There you can see all of our merch. You can buy all of our merch. And you can give us money on Cash App and join Patreon and all that stuff. And won't that be lovely? And then you can talk to Mozz. And Mozz, if anyone wants to talk to you personally, directly, how can they do so?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in the old-fashioned email way that our mothers and fathers once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And follow me on the Twitters that I tweet things when I feel like it at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, me hearties, you've come to the end of another adventure on the high seas of the internet. Please come again next week when we once again sail full stream ahead. Arr.